So here's what we're going to do. We're going to call it Matt's three-pointer, where we ask you for 3 points that we should be considering here going into the precipice of the season. So Matt, what are some of the things you have on your radar early on as your three-pointer?
All right, so point number one as we get started on this, welcome to the NBA season.
Yeah.
Home openers are really valuable. So the NBA home dogs between plus 100 and plus 600 hit at a 44% rate with a 25% ROI. That's per Bet Labs, which you can find on actionnetwork.com. This makes a lot of sense here. You're fresh, you're rested. The crowd's going to be more behind you than they will be for pretty much any game until the playoffs begin. Home openers are a night where everyone's excited, everyone's locked in, and everyone's engaged. Like, this is the game where these teams that I think they're dogs have a real advantage. We've also seen home dogs of less than 4 points. If they're a dog of less than 4 or less, they win outright 56% of the time in those home openers. It's just a choice spot. For me, some people bet injuries in the NBA. I bet motivation. Motivation is always the most important factor for me. So for me, I think looking at these home opener opportunities, especially I think if you're looking at some of these dogs now, I would have some road favorites, a couple of spots on my card, but in general, I do think you got to be aware of the home opener spots for these teams. The second point about the area of emphasis that's changed this season. Don't get caught up in what the beginning of the season looked like last year. So last year, the NBA really wanted to crack down on bogus fouls. They want to crack down on drawing all these ridiculous calls, and it made for some really great basketball. So of course the NBA decided to just, go away from that. And as the season went on, we went back to the mega grift with guys going on the line 40 times a game. The areas of emphasis this season are entirely different. It's about take fouls, and it's about it's a lot of decorum, a lot of pearl clutching going on, honestly, with the NBA being worried about what's the bench doing? Is the bench being too active? I don't know why the NBA is doing this, but the important thing here is that unders hit at a very high rate the first 2 months of the season before things averaged out in December and for the rest of the year. I don't expect that to be the same case this year. I don't think that repeats. We may see similar trends just in terms of offensive clunkiness, but not the extreme rate that we saw last season. So be a little bit aware of that. And then finally, be patient in the early season. We don't know what these teams are. Don't get too hung up on either your priors going into the season and what you thought teams were going to look like, and don't get too hung up on what teams look like right now. There's a lot of fluctuation in the early season. You need time for models and projections to kind of average out. The sweet spot for the NBA season is really mid-November through the All-Star break. Wait a little bit before getting too anxious in these early weeks of the season.